Chambhu. In other words, Jia Sheng is a native of Hejian County, Hebei Province. His father, Dongling, was a very wealthy man, but he lived a luxurious life, throwing away the corners of a bun and throwing it to the ground. Given his obesity, he was nicknamed Captain Lost. In his later years, Xia's family was poor, unable to eat a meal every day, and his arms were so thin that his skin dangled like a cloth bag. That he was called monk for solicitation, a monk with a bag hanging round him. At the end of his death, he told his son Jia Sheng, "I have wasted so much in my life that I offended God, so I died without food or clothing. You should treasure your blessings so that you can live as a human being to save your father's sins." Jia Sheng strictly observed his father's will when he died and was honest and modest in substance, and did not deviate from the truth, so he could cultivate his life himself. The folks respect him, a rich man in his village, sympathetic to his poor family days, lent him money to learn business. However, Jia Sheng would not do any business and lost money. So he felt ashamed that he could not repay his money and asked to hire this rich man as a servant. The rich refused, and Jia was upset, so he sold all his farmland and gave the rich the money in exchange. The millionaire asked for more sympathy, forced him to redeem the property he had sold, and lent him more capital to buy or sell. Jia Sheng Tui said, "I borrowed more than 10 pieces of silver from you, and I can't repay them at a loss. How can I be a donkey in the future and repay your debts again?" The millionaire made him go with other businessmen. Come back in a few months, just at a loss. The rich don't want his interest. Let him go back to business. After more than a year, Jia Sheng bought a full load of goods in the south, and when he came back, he was hit by a hurricane in the river, and the ship nearly turned over, and half of the goods were lost. When I got home, I counted the rest of the goods and was able to repay the money I had borrowed. Jia Sheng said to his colleagues, "If God wants you to be poor, who can save you? It's all because I'm tired of you. Just pay the businessman the money and walk out of the deal." The rich man made him go into business again, and he resolutely refused to do it, and he worked honestly and truthfully at home. He often sighs himself, "Why am I so scared when people live in the world and have a good few years?" One day, Mr. Jia met an out-of-town Mr. Shuagua, who said he could use his money to divine and know a man's life's luck. Jia went to see him, and when he went there, the fortune teller was an old woman. Her apartment was exquisite and clean, with a godlike seat and a fumigant scent. Jia Sheng went in, and after he finished the throne, his mother-in-law charged him. Jia Sheng gave her $100, and the witch put the money in the barrel, knelt before the seat with his hand, rocked the bamboo barrel with his hand and made a prayer look. "Then get up, pour the money into your hands and arrange it in order on the table." Her divination method is to say no with the word of money front and hang with the word of money back. She counts $58, all of which are printed, and then the money goes out, and asks Jia Sheng, "How old is she?" Jia Sheng replied, 28 years old. The witch shook his head and said, "Morning. Morning. You're paying for your luck, not your own. You can't give your own luck until you're 58. You can't cross the tracks." Jia Sheng asked, "What is luck before others?" The witch said, "If the kindness of the ancestor is not exercised, the welfare of the ancestor shall be enjoyed by the latter. If the ancestor is not exercised due to the misdeeds of the ancestor and the misfortune of the ancestor, the latter shall continue to suffer. In another 30 years, I'll be an old man, and I'll be in the coffin, Mr. Jia calculated. The witch said, "Before you turn 58, there was a slight change in luck in 5 years, but it didn't help, and you were only saved from hunger. In your 58s, you should have a large fortune in your hands and not have to struggle to find it. Sir, you have never done anything in your life, and that is to come, and you cannot enjoy it." Jia Sheng said goodbye to his witch and returned home, doubtful. "I can't think of anything else while I'm living in peace and quiet." By the time he was 53, he was mindful to check whether the witch's words were true. Early in the spring, farming began and Mr. Jia was ill with malaria and unable to go underground. When he got sick and had a bad day, All the crops he planted at the early age died. It had only rained in autumn. There was no other food in the house. In the summer, traders planted acres of grain. Then came the drought, which killed half the buckwheat beans, only the drought-tolerant grains growing better. And then a few rains, which allowed the grains to grow better, twice as much as usual. The following spring, in the middle of a famine, the family did not go hungry. Jia Shang believed the witch's words were spiritual because of this. He borrows money from the rich man to do some small business, but he gets a little bit of profit. Someone urges him to do large business, but Jia refuses. At the age of 57, Jia Shang rebuilt the walls and got an iron pot when digging the ground. After being uncovered, the fumes like white flocule smoke emerges from the ground. And Jia Shang can't understand the reason and dare not dig again. After a while, the smoke ran out, and I saw a full pot of silver. Husband and wife carry one weight, 1325 taels. Mr. Jia thought to himself that the witch was still making a mistake. The neighbor's wife went to Jia's store, saw this lot of silver and went home to tell her husband. Her husband was jealous of them, and he secretly sued the government. Hejian's county order was greedy, so it caught Jia and blackmailed him for silver. Jia's wife wanted to hide half and give half, and Jia said, "It's not the money we should get and it's a scourge to stay. I'll dedicate all the silver to the county commander." When the order got the silver, I'm afraid Jia Shang hid it, and then went after the large urn with the silver, put all the silver in, and then put the urn full before he released Jia Shang. Soon after, the governor was transferred to Nanchang province. A year later, Jia Shang came to Nanchang for business, and this county order was dead. The wife of the county order went back to her hometown and sold the heavy stuff. Jia Shang bought all the heavy stuff and brought them home because of the trash of tung oil. After being transported to the home, the tung oil is poured into other appliances when the oil basket is leaked. And the result shows that there are 2 silver casings in the basket. After testing, each basket has 2 collars of white silver. Upon conversion, the amount is in line with the amount of silver extracted. As a result, Jia Shang became rich and increasingly looked after the poor, with every largesse he gave them. His wife advised Jia to save some for his children. Jia said, "I did this, and I bequeathed it to my children and grandchildren." The neighbor who turned him in was so poor that he wanted to borrow a few dollars from Jia Shang, and he felt he had done something to his disadvantage. Jia learned and told him, "What happened in the past? It was my untimely death, so the spirits borrowed your hand and turned it in. What does that have to do with you?" The neighbors were moved to tears. Later, Jia Shang lived to 80, and his children and grandchildren continued undefeated for generations.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.